I haven't been to a poetry slam for like a year, and this is really where I grew up. So it's just like brings back all these memories from like when I started. So yeah, I guess I'll start with this piece. So I do a lot of work in group homes and in schools and colleges, and I do a lot of work in detention centers and with incarcerated adults. So this poem I'm going to do is about my experience bringing out my students who are incarcerated adults onto the yard to perform their poems. And they were very nervous. They weren't nervous because they were on the yard, because they go to the yard all the time. That's where they live, right? They're already incarcerated. They're not afraid of performing in prison. They were nervous because of the same reason many people who came up here were nervous before they performed. Because they were nervous to express themselves, to be vulnerable, to be honest in front of an audience, right? So the piece goes like this. It is not uncommon in my line of work to witness a child shake as they read a poem for the first time inside of the classroom. But yesterday I was not inside of the classroom. Yesterday I was inside of a federal prison on the yard where self-proclaimed Pisces, Peckerwoods, and Crips conduct business against the backdrop of razor wire fences. On this particular occasion, inmates listened as 16 of the 35 men I taught in poetry workshops the previous week spilled their stories onto a single microphone. And the last to read was a man named C. His legs shook with nerves, his neck scar, glamorous enough to be featured on TV during a special about gangs. Content designed to keep suburban viewers amazed as if the corporations they work for ain't on some gangster stuff, please. C's, bullet wounds, dip like fingers in wet sand against his body. I stand behind him and watch as he reads. He is the shyest light in my classroom of convicts, where the eyes of these men follow me each day as I write on the board, a dim globe trapped in their gazes, concealing all the caged memories of their childhoods, where the majority of them were raised to believe that they were mistakes. And a few bad choices along the way landed them in this place. Seems like their whole lives been misshaped. Somehow C's legs shake with purpose, nervous as he speaks about his life. He is deathly afraid of what we're all afraid of. Exposing ourselves in front of a set of eyes that just might redefine us with their judgment. Explaining ourselves to a room of people who may not listen, who may not understand, who just might dismiss our humanity by labeling us bad or no good, or bad and no good, or dangerous, or black and dangerous and bad and no good, or poor, or less, or poor, or less, or disposable like a body in Ferguson, Missouri, if only you could see. All of our reflections trapped in the tremble rushing through C's veins as each word tumbles out of his mouth like a gas canister filled with tulips, like hollowed out grenades filled with lilacs, thumping through the eardrums of 1,000 inmates standing on the yard, standing and listening. Yeah, listening. An audience as warm as any room of humans, willing to love. Man, I had the biggest itch in my throat during the last section of that.
You're okay.
It cost me a lot of stress not to just do that. You know. Man, it's hot. I salute you all. You were the real deal. This audience is legit because you're up here, ain't it?
Dude, it's Arizona.
Yeah, it's Arizona. I mean, I live in Phoenix, so I've been on the road for more than a month. And this is the first time I'm back home. So I can feel it. So look, I grew up in a town not much different than Kingman as a biracial kid. And hey, some clap, I don't know if I deserve something, I didn't expect that. But yeah, you know, I grew up around I had the advantage of knowing and being raised by white folks who loved me, and also dealt with the reality of white folks who just didn't like me because my mom spoke Spanish to me. And that's not why, you know, that was an interesting experience. But I feel lucky for that experience because through poetry I've had the fortune of really going into a lot of rooms. And there's really no type of people or group of people that I don't feel like I can talk to, regardless of how they dress, regardless of how they talk, or where they're from. And a lot of that has to do with knowing and being from a town like I'm from, a town that people skip over, a town that people forget about, a town that people label obsessively. And I moved out of that town and I ran to the city of Phoenix. And I was a pretty angry kid, but I rode the bus and I didn't know anybody. And I rode the bus and I wrote poems. To who? So I could read them to myself later, like anybody else starts writing poems. And I wrote these poems, and I met a couple of people, and I worked a small menial job, and I did my best to make it through. I could have stayed home. I could have called my friends every Saturday night, could have had a house party every Saturday night up in the hills of Idaho with my people, and I probably wouldn't have survived that party too long. And then one crazy thing happened. It was a night sort of like this night, in the sense that I was walking down the avenue, some kid with a backpack on, and I saw all these poets, all at this event, and people were listening. People were walking by in the street, and people were like congregated around these people, and I was like, you know what, I need to try that, because I have so many poems. My first audience really was, I was writing poems on the internet in this group, and they were all like older folks that were like 60 and up, and we comment on each other's poems, and it was important because I had an audience, because someone was there to listen, and I was listening, and I was like, Gladys, I like this one. Gladys, that's a tight line, Gladys. And I'm serious. Her name was really Gladys. Whatever, we're still on Facebook. Okay, but you know, that was my first audience. And I guess my advice to any young writers in here is that, like, slam is fun and all that. It's great to be published. It's great to have some recognition. It's nice to have a job at this type of work. But what it should come down to is, how do you feed your soul through your expression? If you don't have to write, then you might not be a writer. You know? And that's okay. You might just do it a little bit, part-time. But a lot of us, I know for me, it's like, I just have to say something. It's how I survive. And you can get caught up in the hoopla of how successful some people are and aren't, and that's really easy to do. I mean, I came up before button poetry. I mean, like, but people are learning about it now. But it's like, dang, like I know I was in the staircase with the dude who invented that. Like, we both were amateurs, like, you know. And so it's an interesting world. I guess my advice is just like, it's like anything in the world, do your best to get better and improve, but improve yourself, and so will your art. Be honest and be real, and you'll guide yourself to the truth. No matter how difficult that is, or how painful it can be, that's what builds really good art. And really good art builds community, and that's what we all need, no matter where we are, okay? So this next piece is, I came up in Phoenix, Arizona during, you know, Arizona's politics, they're always wild. Always wild and exciting. But SB 1070 had just gone off, and a lot of people I knew and a lot of kids I knew were really being targeted. Many of them who were born here, and whose grandparents were born here. And so this poem is about that time. It goes like this. The picket sign reads, "Who would Jesus deport?" 2, the Nazis outside the Capitol chanting, deport the anchor babies. 3. Hate is plentiful here in a world where too often too many of us believe that a life committed to anger and rage will somehow hurt less than a life disciplined by the inclusion and love for all. 4. Louisa is 9 years old today. She loves her mother's smile and her father's laugh. She wishes she could hear them, see them, touch them. 5. Near the border, an old Yaqui man carries jugs of water in the back of his pickup truck. He loves who he is. 6. Private prisons in Arizona produce hundreds of millions of dollars in profit each year. They are owned by CCA, Corrections Corporation of America. More inmates equals more profit. Jan Brewer signs SB 1070 in the law, not in support of safe borders, but instead in support of CCA stockholders. 7. At the protest, helicopter blades cut wind into chunks. On the ground, there are children with orange butterfly wings tied to their backs chanting, Obama, we want our parents back. Obama, listen, we want our parents back. Obama, listen. Luisa's smile is a sunrise. 8. Sheriff Joe Arpaio increases raids to catch publicity. Deportations are carried out at schools, hospitals, food banks. 9 students chain themselves to the Capitol doors. They're there for their fathers, for their mothers. They love who they are. The news will still call them lazy. 10. Near 7th and Southern Avenues in Phoenix, a gunshot is heard. A man named Thomas Kelly tells his neighbor, Juan Benella, to go back to Mexico or die before murdering him in front of his family. Juan Benella was a 3rd-generation American. He is survived by his wife and 14-year-old daughter. 9. Luisa is 9 years old today. 8. Students chant, walk out, and hallways flood in Phoenix high schools. Thousands spill into the streets in protest for their fathers, for their mothers. They love who they are. The news will still call them lazy. 7. Near the border, the old Yaqui man carries a jug of water and leaves it beneath the tree where last June he found a girl dying. Her jaw was broken. She had been raped. She was 14 years old. 6. At first, all you see is the dirt on her hands. At first, all you see is the dirt on their hands before imagining the dreams they carried across borders. Now, to see their hands folded in thirsty prayer, sinking slowly into sandbox graves, unmarked, and in the thousands. 5. Near the border, Minutemen cut jugs of water open with their knives. The water spills like a dream, seeps into the hot dust, and is gone as swift as a child's soul can leave its body. 4. Luisa's father is a carpenter named Jose, and the sheriffs in Phoenix walk like Roman soldiers. Little Luisa believes that Jesus, that's an Americano with beautiful blue eyes, perfect beautiful blue eyes. 3. No one knows what Christ looked like. 2. Today, Jesus could be anywhere. Today, Luisa prays hard for her parents to come back and tries not to cry. She tightens every muscle in her little body and she prays hard for her parents to come back. She prays to Jesus. She prays to Obama. She prays to the big God. She prays to Jesus Cristo, but she does not pray in Spanish. No, not anymore. She is sure now God only answers in English. Wow. One 9-year-old answers a reporter's question. She is brave. She is loved. I don't think Jesus would deport anyone, she says, especially my mom and my dad. Can I do 2 more pieces?
Yes!
Oh, heck yeah!
I can do a short one. And I'll do this short one for fun, okay? So, 10. Where were you? You can't be. So, look, Poetry Slam is a great tool. It's an amazing tool because if you get into it and it's a consistent event, it makes you write more stuff. That's the best thing about it. But if you keep writing, you realize you don't want to write a 3-minute poem all the time. You know? What's crazy about slam too is that there's people that have been doing slam poetry competitively all across the country for years. And they are deathly serious. And I'm like, bro, just come, it's okay. It's random people. Like, no, that's this poem is a certified 9.5. You know? So it gets crazy, right? So the slam poets can take themselves a little bit too seriously. The academic poets can take themselves a little too seriously. And the people is always like, well, slam poet stuff looks terrible on paper. And the other people is like, well, the academic poets, you just can't understand them. They're not accessible. Okay? And that's just like, those are the stereotypes. The reality is you have writers and performers in both places on various skill levels, and some things do better on stage than they do on paper. And some things do better on paper than they're ever going to do on stage. And that's just the reality. But this is a little slam poem I wrote, poking fun at slam poems. It goes. Indications that you're listening to a slam poem. 1. Definitions. Slam poets will define vast abstractions using metaphors. Love is a rainy day on Jupiter. Then they will explain the metaphor to you because they think you're dumb. It doesn't rain on Jupiter. And you will think to yourself,
actually, I was a science major, and it does rain on Jupiter. It just doesn't rain water. It rains liquid helium contaminated by neon. So you're saying that love is a day of liquid helium contaminated by neon falling onto a planet I cannot survive on. Exactly. Love takes no prisoners. 2. Commandments. Slam poets will command you to do things that are physically impossible. Make your heart a boombox, and your tongue a spatula. Stir up the whirlwind. And you will think to yourself, I can't. Exactly. You are the whirlwind. Slam poets are nuts, and I love them. But remember, a slam poet would never ever write a poem that generalizes an entire subculture of people. Whoa. And remember, slam poets don't care about scores. Slam is love. And love is a rainy day on Jupiter. I really need you to your poem.
What?
I said I really need you to your poem.
Oh, yeah? Okay, so I'm going to do this poem for my dad. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you all hanging out. Please stick around for the final round and continue to support your local people, man. We all need each other. We really do. Yeah. So this is a poem for my dad. Many of us are not fortunate enough to have one adult in our lives that are reliable, let alone trustworthy. Okay? And I was lucky to at least have one. We're all faulted, we're all flawed. This is from my pops. When I was a boy, I wanted to have green eyes. Aqua tangled amber blue water green eyes. Now I didn't want green eyes because I developed some type of shame about having brown ones. Nah. My Chicana mother kept it a buck and let us know that brown is indeed beautiful. No. I wanted green eyes because I grew up on rivers that spilled as open and as free as my limbs under the brim of a sun, riding on top of my father's shoulders, mesmerized by mountains and valleys. I wanted green eyes because my favorite color was green. I wanted green eyes because my father's eyes are green. I used to watch him, his hands and arms twice the size of mine, as he chopped wood, as he tied my shoes, as he handed me a basketball. I would watch as he climbed into a truck with other men, giants, who explained to me that one day I would be like them. And just last week, I felt my father's age tremble in my palm as I helped him up a hillside. We drank cold water from the same cup. The love in his gaze, a sight I won't soon take for granted. Imagine in 8th grade, I was embarrassed of my dad. He was wild and intellectual and unlike the other dads, and all my friends thought he was funny as hell. And I hated that. I left home when I was 18. And just last week, my father spoke to me about that day. How he was loading groceries into his car. How unexpectedly green his eyes wept without restraint over the absence of his only living son. I see my pops battle depression, pick up a cigarette and flick it before finally kicking it. I've listened to his hands clap on keyboards through the night. I've witnessed him love and honor my mother as his wife. I've heard him apologize over and over again for not making more money. To which I responded by saying that you can't put a price on the privilege of having a good father by your side. Not everything about my father is good, but there is merit in his stride, and he's been hell-bent and heaven sent on providing all he can to contribute to the lives of his children. And these days, I don't even want green eyes. I swear I like mine just fine. A perfect splash of my mother and father combined. Besides, my father's eyes are not really green. There's too much miracle rippling inside of them to be labeled one thing. I've seen them slate engraved over my grandfather's grave. I've seen them hazy magenta blaze, handing me a basketball, tying my shoes. I've seen them misty river, blue water jade. There are lifetimes and legacies behind their shine. And I'm compelled to believe the source of that light will always reside here. Yes.